Hello, guys. Welcome to Jetpack Swords, a gaming and gaming adjacent podcast. Hopefully, you all are familiar by now with us having done this for a year. I am James, joined by Greg and Packy.
Wow.
It's great.
That's beautiful.
Having dealt with
I
a lot
like
of
not
technical
being this.
difficulties, that's how Greg starts afterwards. It's great.
Last exasperated
Technical
cry.
difficulties and a
After-
long fucking day.
He'll get taken into the computer again, and that'll be his dying sound. Yeah.
I will
for
say
sure.
that is the worst experience of having a tough day as a software engineer and then coming home and having trouble with your own
that's
technology.
true.
It's so I hate it.
I just work
I
with
do not have
people,
Greg's
and then I get
perseverance.
to
I
come
just give
home
up.
and it's quiet. But you guys, or at least Greg, comes back to that. Yeah, that definitely sucks. So we don't have an official topic for today. Not a lot of news that I saw, at least not in gaming. I think there was a lot of other news beyond gaming, but that's not what this
Little
podcast is about.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
mean, we do
adjacent,
home
so-
screen number 2, Pixel 8 Pro.
I thought we were doing split screen. Split screen's a better name. I was gonna just run through either now or later on before we finish. I wanted to run through just the October release schedule. For mostly just for us, but obviously for any listeners also that care. Since it is now
Forza,
officially
Forza.
October. And then I guess we can all just talk about what we've been playing and anything else. I'm happy to start if y'all would like.
I actually,
So-
since
Away.
Forza
Go
got
ahead,
I just have this thought. What do we honestly expect is going to be different in the new Forza or any of the other games?
It gonna look pretty. It gonna be pretty.
I mean,
All
this
it ever
one's
is.
It's fucking it.
motorsport themed instead of just like open whatever themed. So that's not necessarily different 'cause they've done that before, but it's different from the recent releases.
Yeah, that's why they alternate them. It's
I
just
mean, yeah,
to make
no,
it.
for sure.
Well, so it's interesting because they did 2 Horizons in a row. They did Forza Horizon 4 and then Forza Horizon 5 without a motorsport in between.
Mhm.
And so it actually has been like 5 or 6 years since there's been a motorsport title at this point. It's been a minute for sure. So
According
it's
to
gonna look party.
GameSpot, it's also going as full live service as they can get, so that'll be fun.
Yay.
Yeah, great. I feel like car games, like I feel like that's a decent fit because you can always like add more stuff. You know, new races, new environments, new cars, new modifiers for tracks and stuff. I
Yeah,
don't
as
think
long
it's
as they
terrible.
got like a campaign track, like
Yeah,
like
for sure. As
These
long
are
as
the
it's
races
still
you do in like the thing. Then I think it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Actually, the one like game type that sold me, and I think Forza probably falls into it, is the games where it's a simulator for like real world engineering products. And I really think of like World of Tanks and similar like military hardware games where that's a main focus. And then
World
the
of Tanks
big
isn't even
one,
that realistic. It's War Thunder. That's the realistic
War
one.
Thunder. Sorry, War Thunder. War
No,
Thunder.
you're
I
good.
think War
Thunder's
War
wild
Tanks.
if you want it to
Yeah,
be.
I think the War Tanks one is the mobile. But the I love the wheel. The one that sold me on this
For
is
the
when they talk
listeners
about.
who don't have video, I'm sitting over here playing with my fucking racing wheel in the background,
I can't believe you
making
have
funny
one.
faces at Packy as he tries to talk.
But the one I've heard, whenever DLC gets brought up as like a bane, one of the games that gets brought up that has a ton of DLC is Train Simulator.
Oh yeah,
And it's like
for sure.
egregious because it's like $1,800 or $18,000
It's
with
a
DLC.
lot.
It's an
Yeah.
obscene amount. But then they actually justify it. And I imagine Forza is going to be very similar, where it's like it's a lot of money to like send somebody out and like really do a detailed spec analysis of these vehicles to understand both what they're capable of and how to like very precisely render them so that they
Yeah,
are like
that's
a
fair.
1-for-1 match. So it's a little more to like, there's genuinely a lot of effort that goes into like, putting out an individual car as opposed to like
Also-
other DLCs.
I think specifically for games like that, whether it's Flight Simulator, Train Simulator, like the really, really detailed mechanical simulators, like you were saying, the kind of people that are into that stuff usually have a like top tier favorite, train or train model or plane model or something. And so those are the people that are absolutely going to pay just for that one piece of DLC. They may like live in like a country where they know the like air or rail routes, and so they want to only do those things. And so I don't mind when those companies do that, where it's like a scatter shot, because nobody is getting all the simulator DLC and then doing all of it. Like the amount of people who do that are so small, where I feel like the vast majority of users they pick their one thing that they know very well or they really want, they are able to get that because there is such a scattershot, amount of DLC, and then they just do that. Like the truck simulators like that with all the different like routes you can do. As Train Simulator, I'm sure Flight Simulator, whether it's like the Microsoft one or just like other random ones are similar. So yeah, I don't see an issue. It's when you have DLC where it's like required for the story or the gameplay, and then they're like, yeah, you got to pay for all of this on top of the base price. That's when it's stupid.
Or competitive, where it changes your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely that too, 100%. So I was just gonna run through October real quick, at least the big releases. There's a lot more than these, but it's an interesting month for game releases. I feel like is October? I don't remember. Is October ever that big of a release month? I feel like it never really is.
Not really.
It's usually like
November's the big one.
For the Christmas rush.
But I do think like September, October, November, December are all
feel like
pretty
September,
big compared to the rest of the year.
September, I think, is always like Bungie's stuff, usually for like Destiny at least, if I remember correctly. And then like November obviously gets the Christmas rush. But yeah, so it comes out actually tomorrow. We got the new Assassin's Creed game, Mirage, which is supposed to be of the like 4 or 5 projects that are currently working on, is the one that is supposed to take it back to the older Assassin's Creed games before they became open world RPGs. Previews have said that it's pretty good. Like I saw multiple, or not I guess previews, I guess reviews, said that it's pretty good. I watched a couple of videos. It's a little disappointed because it still uses a lot of the same like HUD and visual UI, just like world design as like Valhalla and Origins and Odyssey, which like I don't know why I'm surprised by that, but I was hoping it would like visually look a little more like the old games too, just in terms of like the HUD and UI. But it doesn't. It looks just like Valhalla in that regard specifically, but it definitely does look like a more focused, not linear, but just a more focused, smaller scale story. Yeah, got good reviews, it looks like, so that's cool for Ubisoft and for fans. I'll probably get it on sale, knowing me, eventually. Forza Motorsport we already talked about, comes out on October 10th, next week, so that's cool. One thing that I'm excited for, especially trying to get back into FromSoft games, is Lords of the Fallen comes out next week. Also, the remake of a originally very generic Souls-like game. Well, I think probably one of the first non-FromSoft Souls-likes came back like forever ago, and I played it. It was really generic back then and not very good. But the new one looks very. I don't know if you guys have like kept up with it at all, but it actually looks like it has some unique ideas and it looks really good, so I'm hoping it actually is good when it comes out next week. A new Sonic game or something next week too, which is I guess cool. Oh, have y'all seen the Hellboy Web of Weird game?
I didn't see that. It looks interesting.
So it's a roguelike action brawler of Hellboy. It looks just like the comic / graphic novel series, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen the art style. It's like a really, really cool art style for sure. If you're not familiar, you should definitely look it up. But yeah,
it's funny. Hellboy's one
really
of those franchises that I think like the wider perception is of the movies that one action guy is in that were popular, but like that's the aesthetic people associate with it. And I saw like a Reddit comment or something where someone's like, please go look at the original art. That is what really got people into this series. Like the story is good, the character is good, but like it's just a beautiful comic. And it is really like, oh, I'm sad
I love the original 2 Hellboy movies. The most recent one with David Harbour, I think I was like, I didn't even see it, but it sounded like it was just very passable and not great. But the one with the 2 with Ron Perlman, I think were really good.
Yeah, I think that's the one I always think of. I didn't even realize there was a new one.
Yeah,
Ron Perlman
too. It came out probably like, I don't even know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I don't know. COVID has messed up my sense of time completely. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen a lot of previews about it, but I mean, it's cool that it's a roguelike. And action brawler is definitely a good fit for Hellboy for sure. And yeah, just the art style alone, the fact they were able to translate it to a video game is just very, very cool. It's such a good looking game. So I'm hoping it'll actually be fun. I don't know how much it's going to be. I could see it being like a $25, $30, maybe a $40 game, depending on how much content's in it. So I think that'll be a good place for it.
Expensive because of the IP.
That's very true. But yeah, I don't know exactly like, some IPs are like indie enough that like they're just cool with whatever getting out there. So I don't know about that much about the Hellboy IP to see if like it's actually something that's gonna like have a high price tag, or if they're just like, yeah, we're just happy it exists or whatever. So I don't know. So I'm pretty sure it's a DC IP. So There's no
What in
telling.
the world? Why is there not a price?
Is there not even on Steam?
I have to imagine. Yeah, Steam doesn't have one.
Interesting. And it comes out in like 14 days, 2 weeks.
Right? They have to. It's got to be somewhere. It's just shocking to me that it's not
It's not on
immediately
Steam.
apparent.
Yeah, that's weird.
When it's this close. All right, I will find it.
The probably the most flagship title for a lot of people for October is the 20th, and it's Spider-Man 2. I know Packy's excited. I know I'm excited. Looks like it's going to be great. No doubts about how good it's going to be at all. So I'm just mostly hoping that Venom gets to actually be in the game for real as like a playable character. That's my biggest hope.
If he's not a playable character, I'll scream. I'll be so angry. Like, they've gotten most of the way there with the Venom suit that they've already showed off. They showed the Venom suit
in the game, and you have the symbiote suit, but Venom has not been confirmed as a playable character yet.
Exactly.
I gotcha.
Which would be a throwback to the Ultimate Spider-Man game, which is great.
Had the suit.
Thank you. What is the name of it? Because I played that one. It's
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, it's just called Ultimate Spider-Man. It's so
yeah.
good. I played it on the GameCube.
That was fantastic. It was a really gorgeous game for being a GameCube game from that era, and yeah, you could be Venom, and it was awesome.
And it just felt, it felt really, really. It felt cool to play as Venom. Admittedly, as a kid, but it they really nailed it, and that is what Insomniac has nailed throughout it, right? Like, everybody hates that line in game reviews, but it does make you feel like Spider-Man, at least closer than any other video game that I played has gotten it. So
yeah,
I'm sure, and especially with the haptics, it'll be great.
I love that you can swap between Miles and Peter, because Miles was really fun to play as in the Miles Morales game. I really liked his move set and his powers and everything. So very cool. You can swap between them.
I'm really hoping they bring back the MJ sections, and I hope they make them longer.
I do too. Honestly, I hope the whole game is actually just an MJ section, and it's just been a bait and switch this whole time. So
It's literally MJ stealth sections again, and you watch cutscenes of Spider-Man and Venom fighting for 30 seconds, and it's like, all right, we got to go collect another artifact or whatever.
Or whatever.
Yeah. I could not even tell you what we did in the MJ section. I remember most of Spider-Man 1 with detail.
Peter saved her a bunch. I know that.
Well, I remember her role in the real story, but I can't remember how they shoehorned in what she was doing to justify having that
section. She was a reporter, so you had to sneak in and get evidence and stuff.
That's right. You broke into the office to get evidence about
they were pretty boring. I liked them for the you scan an item or walk next to an item and you get some flavor text for that item. The characters talk about it for the world building angle of it to cement it in the world. But the actual gameplay for her, it was not good. Especially when it's a Spider-Man game and you just want to be fast and zip around, and then you're just walking through a warehouse. It's great.
For long story-driven game, long open world game, it's just all right, we need some pace breakers. It can't just all be combat if we're going to have 60, 80 hours of completionist gameplay. We've got to have other little mini games to break it up.
But they could have done that where you still play as Peter and he does the investigating. It didn't need to be.
Well, they have stealth sections as him too.
I know, and that's all they needed.
I agree. That's why, Miles Morales, they didn't replace those stealth sections with anything. They just took them out.
They just
they left most of the other mini games in there except for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
That one,
the other... Sorry, go ahead. Before
I'm just going to keep complaining about Spider-Man. It doesn't need I don't need to complain about the minigame. I do think it's funny. One of the funniest comments I saw was Video Game Doug here, really popular game reviewer.
Yeah, of course.
And he was like, you can tell they were proud of this section because right at the bottom, it shows you the mapping to the skip button. It's when you're doing the... you're fixing the parts in Otto's lab.
Oh, yeah.
And the skip button is prominently, it's not, I guess it's not prominently shown, but it's right there at the bottom from the very beginning. You can skip every section with no penalty, which I think was a good design choice, but it is a funny, giving up of hey, we're clearly, again, this is clearly a pace breaker for the main part of the game. If you don't like this, you don't even have to engage with it. And I just wish they would do that for stealth in every game.
A lot of games should have more stuff like that, where it's optional if nothing else. The other thing that's a pretty big release for the 20th is also the new Super Mario Brothers game, Wonder, which I haven't seen a ton, but from the original announcement they did, it looked like a really cool Mario game. And I'm not even a big Mario game person at all. They're just kind of part of gaming's DNA at this point. So everybody's kind of vaguely a fan, but Wonder looks really cool. So I don't know.
Odyssey?
I played a little bit. I need to go back and actually like play it for real, but I did really enjoy what I did play of it. It was very fun.
Yeah, I was surprised how much I liked it as someone who
Yeah.
like typically I need my games to be very ADD fast,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
a lot going on and a lot of a lot of stakes, and it definitely doesn't have either of those. But yeah, it's very fun to mess around with the platforming.
I think that's like a good indicator of quality too. Is like even though we're so used to these other games and obviously like very like Western styled games, like even Mario when they're done they're done that well, they can still be just as good as anything else. So yeah, I wonder. I mean, I probably won't get it, but it looks cool. So, and then
It's not a
go
mainline
ahead.
entry to the series. Like I think the biggest thing you can complain about with all Nintendo games, but I'll say especially Mario games, is like they're often not worth the $60. It's like
No,
a 10 to 20 hour game.
yeah,
That's pretty simple. It's beautiful, and everything it does very, very well. But typically pretty short and very expensive. And the price never
yeah.
goes down.
No, it never
And
does.
and this, especially the non-mainline Mario games, suffer from this. They're typically the
Yeah,
shorter
for
ones
sure.
of an already short type of game.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm like, I might try it out because again, I had fun with Odyssey, and so it makes me want to try the
Yeah,
new version, not just a remaster. But yeah, it needs to like have some game there for it to be worth it.
which like I think like I said, I didn't play a ton of Odyssey, but it definitely seemed like a pretty chunky, substantial game.
It very much
So
is.
I'm sure Wonder will have something similar. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, even if it's not something that I'll get immediately or maybe ever potentially. But yeah, definitely happy for new quality, like mainline, like you said, like flagship Mario games because they're always just very cool, if nothing else. Um, Next big thing, especially for me in particular, is on the 24th we get City Skylines 2, which I know city simulator building games are not exactly the most mainstream thing. They used to be. There was a long time where like Sim City was like a mainstream game, but it's been a while since that was the case. But City Skylines is basically the like really the only well-made professional contender, like made by an actual developer currently in the genre. And so getting a sequel after a long time, I don't even remember when City Skylines, the original one, came out, like 20, I don't know, like 16, 17. Well, it's been a long time. And it had a lot of DLC, a lot of good stuff added to it, a lot of good modding support. But yeah, getting a new one that's like, one is definitely a significant upgrade in terms of visuals, performance, mechanics, but also for someone who I really enjoyed the last SimCity game, SimCity 2013, which if you all might remember was the one that had a lot of controversy because that was when like things being always online started to kind of make that turn. And SimCity 2013 had a always online component, which despite the game being very good and having a lot of really cool systems and some cool like multiplayer and like modular buildings where you put down like a fire station and then over time you could like add things to it. It was just very building blocky. A lot of cool things in that game. The always online component definitely tarnished its reputation and its like fan reaction to it. And they eventually took it out. And it's still, I think I played it. I mean, it's been a few years, but last time I played it, it was still like a very, very good city builder. It was just very small, which was a little weird for the time, but it was a very cool game. City Skylines 2 borrows a lot of that from SimCity 2013, even though it's not the same like series. They just took a lot of inspiration from it. The buildings can be modular. There's like outside connections where you can sell resources like off map, which is cool, and like buy resources from off map. But yeah, it's just cool to get a big budget, as far as those usually are, city building game that's going to have another decade and a half of support. So yeah, very, very, very excited for that. That's probably going to be like my like October main release that I get. So maybe Spider-Man, but
And
probably City Skylines.
the previous one suffering from always online, and that just makes me think of obviously the Payday 3 release right now. That is just like fucking plagued with problems, and like even the people who just want to play by themselves still fucking can't because they have to sit in a fucking online queue, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oof,
And I've heard the game for Payday
big
3
fucking
itself
oof.
isn't even like bad. Like it might be like that studio's best on release game other than the online connectivity, which sucks.
That's fucking rough, yeah. Oh god.
I guess the other, I mean, we're getting the Metal Gear Solid collection October 24th also, which like that'll be cool. Ghost Runner 2, which I never played the first Ghost Runner, but it was like the cyberpunky, like speed running game. Looked pretty cool. This one looks like it'll be cool also. Did you guys ever play Ghost Runner, either of you?
No, it's like Mirror's Edge, right? That was kind of the original
Yeah,
for that
kind
kind of
of. It's
game.
like a cyberpunk parkour ninja Mirror's Edge. So yeah, it's got that same kind of DNA to it.
What do you call that? Is it just parkour games? Is that the best
Yeah,
way to
like a first
describe it as
person
first person?
parkour game. Yeah, except this one's got like more combat to it than Mirror's Edge had.
Okay.
So
Does
yep,
Mirror's Edge have? I've never played any game
it
like
did.
that.
Mirror's Edge had combat. It wasn't like the game's combat was more about like trying to avoid it obviously as much as you could because you were just like a normal person basically. I think the sequel had more combat, but I never played the sequel. I played a
Even
bit
still,
of the
even in the
original.
sequel, a lot of the combat was like kick their legs out from under them so you can keep running,
Yeah, which is like
right?
totally fair.
Like,
The whole game was about the speed and just like getting there like cleanly and everything. So, yeah, I don't know. Ghost Runner has like a pretty big following, like a pretty at least consistent following of fans. So it's cool that they're getting a sequel. And from the trailer, it looked like a really cool game. I have the first one, I just haven't played it, so we'll see. I think the other really big release for October is Alan Wake 2, which I'm definitely going to get, even though I never played the originals, but I love Control, and it's all in the same universe and everything. So and it looks just like a really well-made, really atmospheric horror game, or I guess like vaguely horror game, like thriller, I guess is probably closer. Did you guys ever play any of the other, or I guess the other Alan Wake games?
I still can't believe I haven't played Control. Like,
Yeah, how have you
I
not played
would
Control
love that game.
especially?
I I just never got around to it. I
It's
own it at this
extremely
point.
good.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite. Like I bought it on a whim because it was on sale, and it's probably the most pleasantly surprised by a game I think I've ever been in my life. Like it's so good. I need to go back and play the DLCs, but I just haven't. But yeah, like I think the studio that made it's called Remedy, and all of their games are in the
Yep.
same like canonical universe. So like Control involves Alan Wake. Alan Wake 2 picks up like after the events of Control and stuff. The other one's what, Quantum Break or whatever is part of that same universe also, which Greg, I know you're a big
Oh,
fan of.
interesting. Yeah, no, that's why I'm fucking shocked I haven't played
Yeah,
Control. Like, I
Control's
loved
great.
Quantum Break.
It's extremely good. And also just for anybody, either you guys or anybody else out in the world
Actually,
that's
I think I
listening,
know why.
why?
I know why I haven't played it. Okay. Because they were dick bags and they did
Oh,
the dick
about
bag thing where the Series
the
X version was a different
yeah,
version.
that's
And so
right.
the version that was on Game Pass was in the Series X version. So I was like, oh, well, fuck it. I'll wait until there's a sale and then I'll buy the Series X version so I can get the, like the true version of the game or whatever. And so now I own it, but I haven't gone back to play it. But that's why I didn't play it
You
initially,
should.
is because they were dick bags and they were
They
fucking
were.
dick bags. And I'd like to reinstate that they are dick bags and anybody who does that is a dick bag. The end.
Fair to charge more. It just you shouldn't like you can charge one game that did this was Final Fantasy 15. It was essentially like a $15 DLC. I think it's scummy to force it into a new game. I don't think you can do that specifically for Control, and that I thought was bad.
Yeah.
Like it's not pay a little bit extra if you already own the game. It is you have to entirely rebuy it, and it's just the same game with a graphical upgrade.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. That was definitely like super shitty. And that was that turning point going into this generation where like I guess people were still trying to figure out what to do to get as much money out of like the small generation update as they could, where like nobody had the new consoles yet. I don't know. They're good developers though, in the sense that like their games are good.
Yeah, they
So
do make good games.
yeah, they
Absolutely.
do. Like I said, Control is great. And what I was gonna say is, for you guys or anybody listening, if you like specifically like the SCP universe or like the SCP content of like a organization that collects anomalous objects, organisms, people, creatures, whatever, and they're like a shadow group that does that, and they go around the world and they have this big archive and like facility housing all these anomalous creatures and objects and things. That's what Control is. Control is the closest thing we're gonna get to a non-fan made SCP game, probably. Like there are SCP games, but Control is the closest one that's not made by just like a random dude or whatever. No offense to those other games. Those other games are really cool too, but Control's a big budget. Control's really good. But yeah, Alan Wake 2 previews have been really cool. I've seen some gameplay, looks really cool, really fun. Like I said, just definitely like a well-made cinematic atmospheric thriller with like horror elements and stuff too. But it looks really interesting. So I'm glad we're finally getting it. But yeah, I think that's all the major stuff for October. So it's like a pretty good month for being Smash
in
Between the
mind, like,
Summer.
I think I actually was thinking of this game more so than Spider-Man. Spider-Man,
Really?
it's been like I've been waiting for it for so long. I just kind of this happens to me sometimes with big releases where I hear about it and get excited about it so
Hmm.
early that I just kind
Yeah.
of lose track of it and no
Yeah.
longer because I got really excited about Spider-Man 2 like a year and a half ago. It was hard to just kind of keep that in my mind, and
Hmm.
I knew as it has been like advertising for it's going to be insane in the build-up.
Of
Um,
course.
but the one that I had marked down that I saw at a game conference forever ago that's coming out on the 17th is called Wizard with a Gun.
Oh yeah, the Devolver Digital game. That was on the list when I
Exactly.
saw it, but I didn't know if you all would care about it, so I didn't
It's
suggest
only
it.
because it's made by Devolver Digital. I think they're
Yeah,
like
Devolver's great.
they're on that one of the peak like it's weird to call them an indie studio because they've made many hits, but they still
I
are
mean,
mostly
they have
associated
their
with indie
Well,
own
at this
games.
point, they're
big
basically just a publisher,
E3
right?
thing.
They are more or less just a publisher. Actually, they do develop, but I think what they are known for is no, excuse me, they're just a publisher, and they just I think
They are a
publish
publisher of a lot of very high quality indie games, though, for
Yeah, they
sure.
are.
and
And
ones with
they
very
seem like a
like
fun like a fun culture company.
yeah they don't it is weird. I don't think it's their business plan, but they like seem to only publish games, especially the smaller indie pixel games that have like very unique art styles and typically are I guess not all of them are pushing the genre, but they really seem to seek out those games. They're either
Hmm.
recapturing an old genre or are like trying to forge a new one or
Yeah.
make a very big twist on an existing one. Like I think of games like Hotline Miami and Inscription are just like way out there in terms of what that game is doing. I don't know. All their games are super fun, and this one looks very similar art style wise. It's probably the one that looks the most similar to a recent release that they've had, where art style wise it looks almost identical to Cult of the Lamb,
Yeah,
which was pretty
it
popular.
does. Did you since we're on the topic of Devolver, did you all ever play Carrion?
Yeah, that's the one
Carrion
where
was really cool.
you play as the I didn't play it for very long. You play as the monster in one of the horror films, right? In the spaceship, I want to say.
So you're in a like underground mining. It's basically like a
Yeah, there it is.
control style facility, and you're a little like sentient alien mass of flesh. And as you go through, you basically play like the Thing from the movie, and yeah, it's 2D, basically kind of like a platformer, but you're just like exploring this facility trying to get out. It's not very long, but it's really really fun. I really enjoyed it. But Devolver published it, so made by a tiny Polish studio.
Yeah,
It's
they
a really
just seem
fun
to
game.
find these gems. They
I
also
think that's
publish
the most
Fall
recent one that I
Guys.
like, which that's crazy too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their list. Like it's such a
That's
diverse
Do they
list.
still? Which also rip, by the way. Like
Wait, Fall Guys is
I don't know
dead.
if you. Well, no, it's not dead, but Epic basically fired the entire team.
Wow.
Which that's like the only like kind of actual like news that I've seen recently is yeah, Epic laid off a shit ton of people, including basically the entire team of Fall Guys,
And
which just fucking
hear
sucks.
I mean, it makes sense because I assume, having heard nothing about Fall Guys recently, like it's one of those flash in the pan, very popular at the start, and then it's only downhill from there.
Yeah,
And so I imagine Epic is just responding to that and needs to hit silly profit
Mhm.
numbers and started axing people, and they went to those kind of teams first.
yeah, definitely.
Can't cut the Fortnite skin team.
They would never.
I totally forgot they acquired Fall Guys.
I forgot
Yeah.
about that too.
I don't understand how publishers, I mean, I assume this is just how the industry works. Like, how do you find all these different games? You're
Well,
not going
also
to
it's
one place.
interesting because like publishers provide way less value today than they did 15 years ago.
That's
Right?
definitely, yeah,
Like you
that's
don't
fair.
you don't need to negotiate a spot on GameStop's shelf. You don't need help printing a disc. Like they still provide value. It's just way less than they used to.
Certain resources. I mean, especially like Devolver Digital, I assume a big part of it, and what more publishers are doing is like, we're a popular name affiliated with good games, and people look for our games, and you will be a part of that. We will do the other things, but the main value out of this contract is like the fact that our name is going to be on your game.
Yeah, it's definitely like either if it's like a in-house publishing, so like all the companies that work basically for Sony, like the first party studios, they obviously get like all the resources that come with that, separate from, like you were saying, Greg, like distribution help, but like, immediate access to current and new hardware and stuff like that. I'm sure like Naughty Dog and Insomniac and Sucker Punch all get, or in the case like Packy, you were saying, they just get really, really good, hopefully brand recognition, and to be part of like a solid label. And then anything else other than that, it's kind of a waste.
It's weird. I assume they still take like a massive chunk, like publishers are known to do in all entertainment
Probably.
industries.
Yeah,
It's just
I
kind
would
of so
imagine so.
frustrating. I want to look up. I'll look this up afterwards. Of like what, besides what we just described, what do gaming publishers do nowadays?
Yeah,
'Cause it really-
I think another one is financing. I think
oh, it's
That's
probably
true
that.
too.
Never mind.
Yeah.
It's just that.
like that's the big one, right? Like, and that's where like arguably like GameStop comes in, or not GameStop, fucking Christ, Game Pass. I'm just so tired I am. It's like I think publishers provide us a very similar model to Game Pass in that it's like we'll fund your game, we'll fund development of your game, and as a result, we're going to take all the money from it. I'm like, go fuck yourself. But like, here's a lump sum of change, and like we get all the profits.
Oh,
Like,
this is
I
a
think that
good-looking,
is
mostly finished game that you've been working on for the past 4 years, and hey, you want to eat tomorrow? We'll give you a lump sum today, so you can do that. But we get to
which
keep a
obviously
huge
all
percentage
these
of the
deals
profits.
are. Yeah, they're always fucking different, right? And I suspect very few
Oh, yeah.
people actually take a deal that has 0% profit sharing. I suspect most people
There's
want
no
at
way.
least a tiny percent profit share, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think financing is the other big thing that publishers probably provide these days.
I think you're right. That's
Yeah, I didn't even
In
think about that.
yeah,
Which
it's just
I'm going to speak for all three of us. If there's any company out there that wants to snatch up Jetpack Swords and give us a lump sum of money right now,
you can have all the profits.
please. Do you guys have any other news or big releases you want to talk about?
Those are the main ones.
no.
And really, I think like of that list, I'm probably just getting Spider-Man, and then I don't even think I'll get Wizard with a Gun on launch. I'm just really curious to see how it turns out. 'Cause
Yeah, for sure.
as cool as it is an indie game, which is an absolutely
It
saturated.
makes me just like the style and like the title and the theme they seem to be going for makes me think of the Magica games. Did you ever play the Magica games? I think that's what
Oh,
they
yeah.
were called. The like 1 to 4 person co-op little top down wizard games, and then they had one where it was like Magica Vietnam or whatever, where you just had guns and it was like ridiculous. Those games were funny.
It's a really goofy mashup between like the mystical fun of magic and then freaking Vietnam.
It was great. It was really fun.
A little.
They were from that like Xbox Live Arcade era of like games. That's like they were like the like poster child for that era, I feel like, of games.
Also love
That and all the like pixel junk games.
that really was a era that I miss where stories seemed to matter so little. It
I
did
mean,
you
you know.
you had one, but like it I don't know, it came off more apparent when a studio or like whoever made the game had not put time or focus into it. And it's like this is a vehicle with which to take you to the next mission.
I mean, that's fine, man. That's all you need sometimes. If I'm paying $10 for a game, I don't need it to like fill my brain with enlightenment or like good story. I just need to
Yeah.
get $10 worth out of it. Have a good time.
Facts.
Yeah, I think from that list, I mean, I already mentioned it, but I'm definitely going to get Spider-Man 2 maybe in November, because I don't think there's anything in November that I want right now. And then I'll get City Skylines as like my big October release for sure. So I'll be in, I think, Disney when that comes out. But when I get back from Disney, making some cities.
Gonna be I would
Yeah.
be surprised if you get to Spider-Man in like the first half of November. It's like City Skylines is just you're gonna like it a lot. It seems like it's gonna be good. And it's a city builder. Like you could spend
Yeah.
literally hundreds of hours in it if you
Yeah.
like it enough.
And just like the first game, which just like all of the games that Paradox publishes, which are things like Hearts of Iron and Crusader Kings and Stellaris, it's going to be a solid base game. And then I'm going to be waiting, for the next 5 years for the entire rest of the DLC to get released until it's a like quote unquote complete game. Although they're getting better about dropping games that are solid at release. Like Crusader Kings 3 was way better at release in my opinion than Crusader Kings 2 for example. So same with like Stellaris. Stellaris was a like complete game at launch. So yeah, they're not the developers, but it's just their classic strategy for all the games they publish is they always have a ton of DLC that fills them out nicely. So yeah.
But yeah, no, as alluded to earlier, I am, marginally excited for Forza. I don't know. I busted out the wheel. I haven't played a racing game in probably over a year at this point, outside of like jumping into Horizon for like 30 minutes randomly.
Mhm.
And so like I busted out the wheel. I'm gonna give it a go.
Could be
I'm
on Game
excited
Pass
for
probably,
it.
right? Like it's got to be.
Yeah, of
Okay, I
course.
was gonna say
Yeah,
it's got to be.
exactly. Like I'm not gonna pay for that shit, right? But like, because it's fucking Forza, it's the same goddamn
$70
racing
for
game
a racing
for the
game.
past. Yeah, like, but I will gladly bust out my racing wheel and play it on Game Pass, and like, I am excited to do that. Um, which I haven't. Which I don't know. It's interesting because so we touched on this last week. I started playing Cyberpunk, and I've been enjoying it more than I thought I would. Like
Same.
I'm fucking shocked. I think at
Yeah.
this point I have more hours into it than Starfield. Like I broke that like 2 days
Yeah.
ago,
That doesn't surprise me.
and I was
That
like,
sounds about right.
damn. And as a result, I haven't even touched Liza P. I was
Oh
excited to
yeah,
try
I gotta
Liza
play that
P.
too.
Also because apparently Liza P does the thing that I really like when games do, which I've mentioned this before, which is they have a lot of games these days they'll have like performance mode or quality mode, which normally is going to be performance mode will be like 60 frames per second and quality mode will be 30, and sometimes it's 60 versus 120. But anyways, you normally get two options on consoles: quality, performance. Liza P has quality with higher frame rate mode. And what that means is if you have a 120 hertz screen, it is 40 FPS instead of 30. And I'm super excited by that because that is like my favorite compromise of, like, can you just eke out just a little bit higher frame rate, but still like maintain all the nice, pretty visuals of like the, Pinocchio world that they built. And so like, I'm very excited to try that. But yeah, I'm just fucking busting around in Cyberpunk, which has actually been great. And so I
I
don't even
know
know if I'm going to have
it's
time to
solid.
play Forza.
I have been in the same boat. I've mentioned before that I think Cyberpunk originally was one of the maybe my biggest disappointment in gaming, like maybe ever, if not just like the recent as like an adult. And I have about 40 hours since 2.0. Um, I've been really enjoying it. I'm glad that it's finally at a point where like I feel better about it. And Phantom Liberty is really cool too. It's a good story, good setup. So
Oh wait,
yeah.
so you bought Phantom Liberty?
Yeah, I was like, I'm
Oh.
not at the end of the main game, but I have the option of going and doing what I think is the final mission because the game keeps doing the thing where it's like, wrap up any business before you go do this. And Phantom Liberty, I think it's supposed to take place before the end of the game, like the end of V's story. So I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and grab it, and then I'll just keep working on side missions. And like initially, when you start Phantom Liberty, you get locked into the new district that it unlocks, but you eventually are like able to come and go as you please. And sometimes Cyberpunk does a thing that I actually kind of like because it makes the game feel a little more immersive. But like, a lot of games, a character will be like, oh, like I'll give you a call when I'm done doing my business, and like I'll let you know when I'm free. But usually they'll just call you like immediately afterwards, and you're like, oh, that was very gamified, I guess. But Cyberpunk will do the thing where they're like, hey, I got to go do some business. I'll give you a call. And it's like literally multiple in-game days before they'll get back to you, which is like, I don't know, like it's such a small thing, but it does make it feel more immersive because you're like, cool, I can go do V's business now. And then like, I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm doing the thing where, oh, there's a timeline I got to keep up with. Like, like it's like Mass Effect where like the Reapers are coming, but I'm going to go fuck off for 30 hours and do whatever. So yeah, Cyberpunk's good. Phantom Liberty's good.
I like that because it helps me with it. It basically lets me time box side quests.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
For sure.
Like it's a built-in time box, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like go do the main quest, and then like Takamura will call you when you're ready to scout out the fucking like Arasaka Plaza factory shit. I don't whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, okay, let me go talk to Judy in the meantime, and and do whatever. And then it's like a perfect time box, and it's built into the game, and so like really like it keeps me focused and on track and not like wasting time on useless shit, while simultaneously like letting me do some extra bonus stuff. I've been a huge fan of it. It's worked out really well.
I completely agree. And the new skill tree, the way the game plays now, in my opinion, is a lot better than it did before, which obviously that's like not just 2.0, that's like the whole since release, all the time they put into it to try to try to get back the good public like goodwill they had before from like Witcher 3 and everything. But yeah, it's in a much better place than it was before. Like I said, from a game that I was extremely disappointed with on release to a game that I like am very much enjoying playing. That alongside Starfield like back to back is good. So yeah, what I've been doing. And then I mentioned before the actual episode, I've also been playing Bloodborne. I picked that up today. Played a little bit of Elden Ring with Jacob the other day. Armored Core is still broken for me. I literally can't play the game at all anymore. So it's been a lot of fun. Packy, what you been doing?
I kind of hit an endpoint with Starfield.
Okay.
I think it really captures space exploration where you see this infinite possibility and then you get out there and you're like, it's a bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
I do think it was really more, I think you nailed it with just you, especially thinking back on what you had described a game where it really is. I see it as like a new type of game, the space exploration, cool space exploration RPG. And you're like, it's really just a redressed version of the same Bethesda game that they've been making for a while.
Which is
improved a lot.
I think fine. Figure into that.
But I think I envisioned things that were never had a hope of existing, of like really varying up. And no game has this where like you're like, I can play as this can be any type of playthrough. Which games really love to show at the beginning the potential for that, but ultimately it's going to kind of like push you down certain routes and you'll get different flavor. Especially I think what most of them do, and I think this game does, is there is the good guy route and the bad guy route at a high level, and there's many different flavors of the good guy route. There's only one flavor of the bad guy route.
Yeah,
and it's usually pretty
abrasive. Yeah, they have not the negative side of like the gray or black sides of the game are definitely not as fleshed out in the same way that like the good guys, which like I guess makes sense because Constellation at its core is like definitely meant to be a very optimistic, positive force in that universe.
I just think there are other games where when there's, and again, it does a lot of the different flavors through like your background and the skill choices you make to make
which
you
I really
type
like.
Of person.
Which
I think is good.
I have not played another game that does it as much as I feel like Starfield does, and that specific, other than like Baldur's Gate 3, which does it for like race and stuff. But yeah,
I think it's that perfect mix.
I'm curious, actually. Sorry to interject, but James, did you, as you're playing, we talked about this before, and you mentioned, especially initially in Cyberpunk, you didn't notice it. I've noticed a ton of like Nomad. So I did Nomad as my background. I've noticed a ton of Nomad dialogue options. Like, as you're playing through it now, are you noticing more than you did initially?
So one, yes, and part of that's just because I've played it more recently now. Because when I last played Cyberpunk, it was when it released basically. But also when I originally played it, I did try all three like backgrounds, and they all ultimately felt very similar. Playing Corpo is my preferred playthrough. I really like the Cyberpunk angle of being like part of the machine, and like even in the case of V and Cyberpunk where he or she falls out of the corporate machine but still has that background of being like part of it. I will say, at least for Corpo, either I'm just further in now and so I've seen more of it, or like they did add more like context for it within the game, but I definitely feel like there has been more of that flavor to the game for sure. I have not seen as much of like the skill side of it as I would like, but I think that might just be chalked up to the fact
I don't think I've noticed any of that.
There is.
It's just been dialogue options that I've
But
noticed.
I will say, at least for the skill side of it, there's just less skills, like for like the types of skills. Like Starfield obviously has like the tech skill tree and the combat skill tree, but like within that, there's a lot of those, and those individual skills will sometimes give you dialogue options. Well, in Cyberpunk, it's always tied to the overarching, like, big number skill. So, like, it'll be your body skill gives you something.
Just, like, strength or tech or whatever.
Yeah, which is still cool. Like I said, I've definitely seen, like, a decent amount of it. Which is why, like, I've personally been really enjoying bouncing between the two games. Because, like, nobody makes a open-world RPG the way Bethesda makes games. But Cyberpunk has, like, the really good cinematic other side of that Bethesda does not do as well. So, yeah, I know this was Packy's thing to talk about, but I really have enjoyed playing them back to back and just seeing the strengths of each of them. Like it makes them even more apparent, and to me, it makes them like better in their own regards, like individually, by being able to compare them back to back like that. So, yeah, I really enjoying both of them. And I was gonna say, we can get back to packing in a second, but I just wanted to say, like, I've since playing more of like New Game Plus on Starfield, and being a higher level, there are definitely things that you're not going to see until you're like level 50 or above. So like I had mentioned that there was like some things that seemed like they were going that way. House of Arun definitely is like not really in the game at all. Like I have seen them in space more, like as like enemies. I even found a giant House of Arun ship that was a legendary ship, which was cool, but I haven't beat it yet because it's really strong. So like there is more out in like the systems that you don't get to go to until you're like 75. But I'm still feeling like I've like hit the limit of a lot of it, which is just, room for DLC, which is like fine, whatever. But yeah, I also definitely said a bunch of things on the last episode that listening back to it and then looking at my playtime now, I was wrong about. So I apologize for being an asshole and being like, no, that's not true in the last episode.
But so without with hitting your wall in Starfield, Packy, what have you been up to?
This is
Sea of
all
Stars?
been the path to beating Armored Core again. Is slowly finding games with increased action to test, both in like getting just back up to speed playing games and stuff, which is not long, but more, again, I'm still slowly recouping my hand, and it's been like, all right, well, we're gonna play more and more games that are more and more demanding, and we'll just see how
You're
it
not
goes.
quite at the Smash level yet with the fucking unergonomic GameCube controller. You got to work up to that shit.
Dude, I did play it as like again another test of like, because I think that game. One thing to understand about how I play games for those who've not played with me is that I don't think I frustrate super easily, but I do give up on games very quickly.
Fastest uninstall in the West. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like,
I do. I just get frustrated, especially if they're like, I think the game, and it's not like, I don't do it because games are particularly buggy. I do sometimes do it because they're too story heavy and slow, but I often do it because I just don't think like mechanically the game is snappy and fun. I very quickly will be like, oh no, the basics of this game are garbage, so like the game is going to be garbage.
Oh, absolutely.
I do that too. Yep.
So, and I think, so I will like, if it feels mechanically bad, and then that's what I noticed and why I got so frustrated when the first game I came back and tried to play is Armored Core, which I know mechanically is super snappy and good. And then it is just my hand that makes it feel bad. And so I was like, okay. And so I get, again, the closest, because I have that realization that it is not the game, it is 100% me, and I have nobody, I couldn't look around the room, my cat's not laying on my lap or anything, there's no one to blame but me and my play. So I thought I was going to, like, spike my controller, I was getting so frustrated. So I've been slowly working up to, like, all right, we'll play it again, and we're going to play it, and we know we're going to be, like, actually good. One of the litmus tests was Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is an incredibly mechanically demanding game. And that was about a week ago, and I did okay at that. I didn't even bother playing players. My self-esteem didn't need that. But I did, like, play around with it enough. But anyway, my next was, all right, we're going to play an action game, not a shooter. That I think often has you just doing more movement in general and doing a lot more, like, quick directional stuff. And I wanted that to be Gotham Knights, which went on Game Pass yesterday.
Oh yeah, shit! I want to play that too.
It's go into it not expecting much. It's not terrible. Like it's fine.
I'm going into it expecting to press X and then press Y, and the light pops up above their head. And
guess what? You're not going to do that. It specifically doesn't do that. It does a new combat system, which I don't like as much. I'm going to play a little bit more. I'm super close to uninstalling it. It is worth playing for one reason. If you like DC Comics, it is not faithful to Batman, but the opening cutscene is very fun. I enjoy just sitting there and watching it a lot. And then you get into the actual game, and I can't speak to like what the main story is because I'm just not far enough into it.
No, I mean the story doesn't matter, but it's not a bad game. It's got some cool, like what I like kind of thing where like depending on the character you play as, there'll be different dialogue on certain missions, which is cool. Some of the suits and like suit designs are really cool, but the actual game itself isn't like it's pretty generic, and I'm glad it's on Game Pass so that way people can actually like play without dropping the money on it, because like I paid for it and like I don't regret it. I played the full game and got my money's worth, but it's fun. It's just not like super complex or anything.
I do like Game Pass for that, and that I will play it. And if I've only gotten part of the way into it, and I'm starting to get bored, I won't feel obligated to finish the game. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I bought it, so I should
which just
finish.
makes you more
Maybe it gets
annoyed and more
better.
mad about it. And yeah, I
Exactly. It goes from like feeling
100% get that.
about a game to just hating it.
Yeah, it's not a commitment. It's fine.
Yeah, I think this one will be one. I am very confident I won't finish it, but I'm definitely gonna
Yeah,
be further than I am. And then,
it's like I said, it's all right.
but if I don't like it, I will.
Game Pass.
It's
Sorry.
It. I will say the next, but again, that's my. I set this when I actually. It's like, I think it was right after we had this episode, and right after I made the decision of like, all right, we're gonna slowly like. It was when I decided to play Sea of Stars. I was like, all right, the goal, because I had so much fun, James, when we were playing Armored Core and we were texting about it, and I was like
Yeah.
really involved because I was playing and we were progressing it. And then that just died, and I was
I'd
really
love
really
to
sad.
do that again.
That's what Remnant 2 was
But-
for me. It's like,
Yeah, it's fun to
Remnant
play
2 was
those
so
reasons.
fun.
And again,
It's just like, ah.
It's why I was excited about Starfield. But anyway, it's like I really wanted to finish out that experience, even if we don't get to like we're not playing it at the same time. So my
I
goal
can't.
was for many reasons. Also, I'm like infinitely far behind you at this point. And so I was like, all right, by the end of this year, we're going to. I still haven't finished my initial playthrough, which I will assuredly do. But I was like, I want to beat New Game Plus by the end of the year. Like we'll rehab and like focus on that is the only like hand related goal that I have. It's like that'll be the main test. And it's a very, very achievable goal. Especially because
it's
we're
the
coming up on being able to play.
easiest FromSoft game by far.
Yeah, it's really not. That's why I want to. It has made me want to try Elden Ring just because I love that type
so
of
good.
experience. But I also it's why Bloodborne actually is like the perfect one of why I struggle to get into FromSoft games because I don't mind as much getting beaten into the ground. But the atmosphere is so depressing. I just
so
really dislike
good,
that.
though.
It's just relentless.
No, I feel that.
There's no
Such a
joy.
well-made Lovecraftian world. Oh, I love Bloodborne.
You know,
I'm terrible at
not
it,
Bloodborne, but Elden Ring. Elden Ring, I've read a good bit of the World War, just like for fun, because so many people were playing it. It's awesome. It's very well put together.
It's really, really cool.
So I'd be interested to play the game already knowing so much of that and being able to actually like live see it and see it all worked in. With the
just the I'd say like the saddest part of Elden Ring is that a lot of the lore is like history. So when you get to it, like the world is like in decline, and it's FromSoft. So like most of their games are like grimdark. That's like what they do. And yeah, seeing like how close to greatness everything is, and it's still just a like grim, terrible existence of a world.
Yeah, you're seeing the remnants. It tells
absolutely.
you like the lore paints the picture of this very interesting, like conflict heavy, but like stretching empire that had a lot going on. And now you're just walking through a wasteland with like
literally
the few survivors who are
ashes,
corrupted.
which is FromSoft's. Like every single one of their games is about you walking through the ashes as the player. All the Dark Souls games, Demon Souls, Armored Core, Elden Ring, Bloodborne,
Dark Souls was
Sekiro.
definitely more direct about it, right? Like it was.
Oh, I mean,
that's
also
the main
Armored
thing is
Core.
end of the
Everything's
world.
called Ash and Cinder, just like the Dark Souls games.
I guess that's also true about Armored Core. Armored Core
It's
doesn't feel
literally
as
Armored.
like
It's called
depressing.
the Fires of Ibis, a massive galaxy-sized explosion.
Yeah, like
That's one of the things I
planet.
liked about Remnant is you have the different worlds, and like the like some of the worlds are actually like vibrant, right?
That's
Like
what I
Yeah,
like
I
about Remnant.
don't need it all to be happy, joyful.
Um,
I just want that tone change occasionally. I just don't
Yeah,
want it to be
for sure.
solely like everyone's
You,
dead.
Remnant. You should play Remnant.
So you say you got to play Elden Ring and get to I think it's called Damanula. It's this little town in Elden Ring that's super happy and has no ulterior motives behind it. It's just really pleasant. So get to Damanula and you'll feel better.
On that note, we are approaching an hour. I just saw an email. I'm very excited. I'm going to be buying a flight stick off somebody for $40 tomorrow, which is like
Nice.
the price where I can like justify it because it's fucking. I don't need this thing, but if I get it, then Everspace 2 just came to Game Pass. And so would
It's-
fucking also have to like add that to the fucking list of
It's
shit to play with the flight
fun.
stick.
The story is really bad.
No, I'm not. I'm expecting nothing other than flight stick going pew 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 in
It's
my spaceship.
it's
That's
a
all I
better game to
want.
play than Chorus was. Like it feels better to fly around than
Mm.
Chorus, but the story is equally as terrible.
Um, yeah, so I'm excited for that. And then on that note, if it's probably time to wrap up, unless either of you have anything to last comments.
Nope, I gotta go play more Cyberpunk.
Yeah, right. I need to make sure to play it today so that I don't hit the thing I hit with Starfield, which is too long of a break, and then I lose momentum. I need to make an effort to play it today. But at least as of now, it's like I want to make an effort to play it today. That's the thing. It's
It's
like with
fun.
Starfield, I don't really feel like playing it today. Whereas like I'm like I want to go play Cyberpunk right now. So, all right. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for listening, everybody. Adios. Catch us next week.
See ya.
Peter.